The hall shimmered under soft golden lights, the kind that made everything feel perfect, even when it wasn't. Laughter filled the air, glasses clinked gently, and music played just loud enough to keep the mood alive. It was supposed to be a celebration. 10 years of marriage, 10 years of building a life together, 10 years with Uche. Cynthia stood at the center of it all, her wine-colored dress hugging her perfectly, her smile graceful, but not entirely real, because something was wrong.
Welcome to Latongu Tales. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a story. Now grab your popcorn, let's dive into today's tale.
Uche was late, very late, and not just a few minutes late, the kind that made people check their watches and whisper behind their glasses. That's strange. Where is he? He wouldn't miss this, would he? Cynthia heard it all, even though she pretended not to. She glanced at her phone again. No calls, no messages, nothing. A small knot tightened in her chest, but she quickly pushed it down. Tonight wasn't the night to overthink things. Tonight was supposed to fix everything. Because the truth was, things hadn't been the same. Uche had changed. Or maybe he had just stopped pretending. The late nights, the distance, the silence that slowly replaced laughter. Conversations that used to flow now felt forced, like two strangers trying to remember why they ever fell in love. But Cynthia endured because she believed in marriage. She believed in commitment, and above all, she believed in him. Relax, her friend whispered beside her. Maybe he's planning something big, you know men. Cynthia let out a small laugh. Uche, planning surprises? That would be new. Still, she held on to the hope. Maybe he would walk in with flowers. Maybe he would say something meaningful for once. Maybe, just maybe, this night would remind them of who they used to be. Then suddenly, the doors opened. At first, no one noticed, but Cynthia did. And in that single moment, everything changed. Uche stood at the entrance, dressed sharply in a black suit, looking calm, too calm. But he wasn't alone. His hand was holding someone else's. A woman, young, elegant, beautiful, and smiling like she belonged there. Cynthia's breath caught in her throat. The room slowly fell into silence as others began to notice. Whispers spread like wildfire. Is that? No way. He didn't. Every step Uche took towards the center of the hall felt heavy, deliberate, unapologetic. By the time he stopped in front of Cynthia, the entire room had gone completely quiet. Even the music had faded into nothing. Cynthia stared at their hands, locked together. Her heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear herself think. Uche, she finally said, her voice barely steady. What is this? He looked at her. Not guilty, not ashamed, just calm. This, he said slowly, tightening his grip on the woman beside him, is Chioma. The woman smiled slightly, her eyes scanning the crowd like she was being introduced on a stage. And, Uche continued, she is my wife. The words hit the air and everything shattered. A sharp gasp echoed through the hall. Someone dropped a glass. It broke loudly against the floor, but no one moved. Cynthia blinked. Once. Twice. As if her mind refused to process what she just heard. Then she laughed. Soft at first, then slightly louder. Because it had to be a joke. A cruel one, but still a joke. Stop it, she said, shaking her head. This isn't funny. But Uche didn't smile. I'm serious. And just like that, reality settled in. The whispers grew louder now. This is disgraceful. In front of everyone. After 10 years? All eyes turned to Cynthia. Waiting. Watching. Expecting her to break. But she didn't. Not tonight. Not like this. Slowly, Cynthia straightened her posture. She lifted her chin, her expression smoothing into something calm, almost too calm. Then, she laughed. The reaction was immediate. Confusion spread across the room. This wasn't what anyone expected. Even Uche blinked. Just once. "Is that so?" Cynthia said, her voice steady, controlled. She took a step forward, then another, until she stood directly in front of them. Up close, she studied Chioma carefully. Perfect skin, confident posture, a smile that almost looked practiced, but beneath it, there was something else. Something uncertain. Cynthia noticed it instantly. "Welcome," she said softly. A ripple of murmurs followed. Cynthia, what is she doing? Is she okay? Ignoring them all, Cynthia reached out and gently took Chioma's free hand. For a split second, Chioma hesitated. That tiny pause didn't go unnoticed. "If you're his wife," Cynthia continued calmly, "then that makes you family." Now the entire room felt like it was holding its breath. Uche's expression shifted slightly, his eyes narrowing as if trying to understand what was happening. But Cynthia wasn't finished. She turned slightly toward the guests. "Thank you all for coming," she said clearly. "Tonight was meant to celebrate 10 years of marriage." She paused, then added, with a faint smile, "But it seems there's more to celebrate." A few uneasy chuckles broke out, but quickly died down. Cynthia turned back to Uche. "Since you've chosen today for this announcement," she said, her tone still calm, "I think everyone deserves to hear the full story." That caught him off guard. She could see it. For the first time since he walked in, Uche hesitated. Chioma glanced at him briefly. Something unspoken passed between them, and just like that, Cynthia knew. There was more. Much more. And whatever it was, they hadn't planned for this moment to go this way. Cynthia leaned in slightly, her voice low enough that only they could hear. "Be careful," she whispered, her smile widening just a little. "Because whatever you say next," she stepped back gracefully, "might not end the way you planned." Then she gestured lightly, giving him the floor. The silence in the room was suffocating. All eyes were on Uche now, waiting, watching, judging. He inhaled slowly, his confidence no longer as solid as before. And then he opened his mouth to speak. Uche's voice came out slower this time, not as confident as before. He began, glancing around the silent room. "But there's something all of you need to understand." Cynthia crossed her arms lightly, her expression unreadable. "Then explain," she said calmly. A long pause followed. Uche swallowed. Then he looked at Chioma, really looked at her this time, as if asking for strength. But instead of reassurance, she looked nervous. That was the first crack. "I didn't plan for it to happen this way," Uche continued. But I couldn't keep hiding it anymore. The murmurs started again. Cynthia tilted her head slightly. Hiding what exactly? Uche exhaled deeply. Then finally, I married Chioma 6 months ago. A collective gasp filled the room. Someone muttered, "Unbelievable." Another voice whispered, "This is wickedness." Cynthia didn't react. Not outwardly, but inside, something twisted sharply. 6 months. While she was still cooking his meals, washing his clothes, waiting for him at night, he had built another life. And yet, she still smiled. "Go on," she said quietly. Uche hesitated again. That hesitation said everything. Because now, he was no longer in control of the story. He started, but his voice faltered. Then suddenly, "I think I should speak." All eyes turned to Chioma. That wasn't part of the plan. Even Uche looked at her confused. "Chioma, no." But she gently pulled her hand away from his. That simple action sent a ripple through the room. And just like that, the balance shifted. Chioma stepped forward, her confidence no longer as firm as before. Her eyes met Cynthia's, and for the first time since she walked in, there was no pride in them, only something heavier. "I'm sorry," she said. The words landed softly but carried weight. Uche frowned. "What are you doing?" Chioma didn't answer him. Instead, she kept her gaze on Cynthia. "You deserve to know the truth," she continued. The room fell completely silent again. Cynthia's smile faded slightly now, not into weakness, but into focus. "Yes," she said, "I do." Chioma took a deep breath. Then she said the one thing no one expected. "I didn't know about you." The room erupted in whispers. "What? That's impossible. She's lying." But Chioma shook her head quickly. "I swear," she said, her voice trembling now. "When I met Uche, he told me he was divorced." Cynthia's eyes slowly shifted to Uche, and this time there was no smile. Uche's face tightened. "That's not... Chioma, you told me she left you," Chioma cut in, her voice rising. "You said she didn't want children. You said you were alone." Gasps echoed again. Cynthia felt the ground shift beneath her feet, not because she was breaking, but because the truth was unfolding, and it was uglier than she imagined. Uche ran a hand through his hair, his composure slipping completely now. "Chioma, stop! This isn't the place." "No," she said firmly. "This is exactly the place." She turned back to Cynthia, now tears gathering in her eyes. "I wouldn't have married him if I knew," she said. "I'm not that kind of woman." Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Then Cynthia spoke, softly. "But you are his wife." Ichona shook her head slowly. "No," she said. And then she reached into her handbag and pulled out something. A document. She held it up, her hand trembling slightly. "This marriage," she said, her voice breaking, "is not valid." The room froze. Uche's eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" Ichoma looked at him. this time with something close to anger. "You lied on the documents," she said. "You declared you are single." A pause. Then the final blow. "I found out 3 days ago." The silence that followed was suffocating. Cynthia's heart pounded, but her face remained calm, controlled, powerful. Chioma stepped forward and placed the document gently on the table in front of Cynthia. "I came here today because I couldn't let you be humiliated without knowing the truth." Tears slid down her cheeks now. "I'm sorry for everything." And with that, she turned and walked away. No drama, no pride, just quiet dignity. The door closed behind her. And just like that, Uche was alone, completely exposed. The whispers grew louder, harsher now. He's a liar, a disgrace. In front of everyone? Cynthia looked at him, really looked at him. And for the first time in years, she saw him clearly. Not the man she loved, not the man she believed in, just a man who thought he could have everything without consequences. "Cynthia," he said, his voice breaking now, "I can explain." She raised her hand gently, and he stopped. "No," she said quietly. A pause. Then she took a step closer to him. Her voice was calm, but every word cut deep. "For 10 years I stood by you," she said. "I defended you. I believed in you even when you gave me nothing to hold on to." Uche lowered his eyes. Shame had finally found him. "But today," Cynthia continued, "you didn't just disrespect me." Her voice trembled slightly now, but she didn't lose control. "You tried to erase me." A tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. "And that," she said softly, "is something I will never forgive." The room was silent again. Not out of shock this time, but emotion. Real, heavy emotion. Cynthia took a deep breath, then straightened her shoulders and smiled. Not the same smile as before. This one was different, stronger, free. "Thank you all for coming," she turned to the guests. "You came to celebrate a marriage." She paused, then added, "Instead, you witnessed its end." No one moved. Some people were already wiping tears from their eyes, because this wasn't just drama anymore. It was real, raw, painful. Cynthia picked up the microphone gently. "For anyone here," she said, her voice steady, "who is holding on to something that is already broken." She glanced briefly at Uche. "Let it go." A tearful silence filled the room. "Because sometimes," she added softly, "losing someone is the only way to find yourself again." Then she placed the mic down, turned, and walked away. Not in shame, not in anger, but in power. And as the doors closed behind her, there wasn't a single person in that room who wasn't moved to tears.